Alessia and I'm an accountant from Vancouver. Today we are going to be talking about invoices. Why do you think it's so important to talk about invoices? Because quite often when people open small businesses, they do not know how to create invoices, what to put on the invoice, what information is critical. That's why I've decided to create this video, and I have a template for you. If you want, you can use my template or you can create your own. Let's look at it. When you create an invoice, very important to have your company name. That's very important, and some people always forget to do it. If you're a sole proprietor, it's going to be your first and last name. If you have a company name, it's going to be your company name. For example, to me, it's going to be accountant 1. Next, you have to add your address, your email address, and your phone number. It's very important to have all 3 because if your customer is going to be paying you with check, they would need your address. If they have any issues with the invoices, they would probably want to email you or give you a call. Also, it's very important to put the proper vendor information for you and your accounting team. Your customer name, your customer address, and your customer phone number. Here it's vendor, but this is technically your customer information. Why is it important? Because when you pass this invoice to your accounting team, we or they would have to follow up with the payment of the invoice and to make sure that your customer knows that they have to pay. Invoice number. It's very important to have invoice number, and you can create your own. However, each invoice has to have a unique number. Why is it so important? When you or your customer have an issue with this invoice, they can call you and say, can you please help me with invoice number, let's say 5535. You can go to your system and you will pull out exactly the invoice with the same number. And this way you will know who you're talking to. The date on the invoice is also very important. The date is important because based on this date, you are creating your revenue. I will talk about it a little bit later when you have to create your revenue, but technically the date, it's when you're going to be submitting it to the CRA. It's not when the invoice get paid, because payment due is different. Payment due usually it's net 30 or upon receipt. But this date doesn't have to be the same as your invoice date. For example, quite often invoice would be issued in 1 month and it will be paid in different months. You are passing your revenue from 1 month to the other if you are changing the invoice to a payment date. I want to stop for a little bit and talk about what is the legit invoice is. The legit invoice is if you and your customer have a written or verbal agreement that you are going to be providing services and they are going to be paying you for it. That is very important because when you create an invoice, if you are not expecting to receive payment for the invoice, your invoice might not be a legit invoice. Descriptions are also very important because in description, you are providing the information about the invoice and why you issued it. For example, if you have a contract between you and your customers that you would do exactly the same services every month, you would be putting services for January. For example, if you provide services for $1,000, that's what you will put on your invoice. And month, it would be, let's say, January. The same would be next month. And if you provide services for more, you can adjust it. You can also add as many lines as you want, but I would recommend to create descriptions as detailed as possible. Now over here we have subtotal, which is total of the invoices, and below we have taxes. Again, each province have different tax rate. For example, this invoice only for GST, which is 5%. Sometimes it can be GST and PST. And totals, this is the amount which your customer has to pay. Also, GST number is very important, especially if you have a new business, because based on GST number, your customer is going to be creating T4A at the end of the year. And also, in case if they or you have a GST audit, you would provide that you have this invoice and there's a GST number, and you collected this GST and you submitted it. After that, I would print it as PDF. And then I would send it to the customer. Do not forget, invoice, which is a legal document. Based on your invoice, your customer is going to be paying you. And if you have any questions about invoices, please do not hesitate to ask. And thank you so much for watching my video.